Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Climate, a weekly webcast series from ecoAmerica, featuring dynamic discussions with local and national leaders. We offer diverse perspectives and bring forth the latest thinking and best practices for building public support and political resolve for equitable climate solutions in the U.S. Please engage with us online using the hashtag Let's Talk Climate. I'm Reverend Carol Devine, an ordained minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ and the director of the Blessed Tomorrow program at ecoAmerica. I am joining you today from my home in Lexington, Kentucky, on the traditional lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Yuchi, Shawnee, and Cherokee people. And I'm honored to be joined today by Jessica Maudlin, Associate for Sustainable Living and Earth Care Concerns with the PCUSA. Jessica is a great climate leader and a wonderful partner of Blessed Tomorrow, and I am blessed to call her a colleague and friend. Welcome, Jessica. It's so wonderful to be with you today. So let's just jump right in and just start by telling us, what is COP and why does it matter?
Yeah, so COP stands for Conference on the Parties, and that is the decision-making body of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, which started in 1994. So that's something that's been around for quite a while. COP is where all of the parties to that UN convention come together. That's about 197 countries or so, and they come together, and all of those states are represented through delegations. And they meet every year unless the COP decides differently. They first met in Berlin, and they rotate where that's hosted. So this year it was held in Egypt because they're in the part of the rotation for countries to be in the Africa area. And so the PCUSA is one of the NGO folks that can be, there are lots of other delegates that can be present and attend the COP. And so the PCUSA has been there for every COP since it started, except for one. And it's been one of the same people who is a retired staff person now, but he still attends as part of our delegation because he's also Presbyterian. It's important for lots of reasons, but one of the really important roles that the United Nations holds is that it brings us together as a global community and not just individuals. And so we know that climate change is not a one country or a one area issue, and more I think people are realizing that. And so this is one of the ways in which the global community comes together to work on addressing an issue.
Oh, thank you so much for that overview. So describe a little bit of what was it like being at a global community, conference?
Yeah, so I will name that compared to some folks, I'm relatively new to the climate change community and world, and I knew that going in, and I feel like I'm fairly well traveled and have had a diverse amount of experience, but it was really I jokingly said to a friend of mine, it was like drinking out of 7 fire hydrants at the same time, and one of them was on fire. It was so much, and it was, there are different things happening, and so different people were focused on different things. So there's the kind of high level things that were happening. The first week had the major heads of states, heads of countries. The second week was moving into the more of the delegations getting into the nitty gritty. There were faith communities represented. There were also other NGOs and indigenous peoples groups there that had what they called side events. So there were these big high level meetings, but then there were also, constantly workshops or actions happening. And it was just really beautiful to kind of stand, the first day, it was overwhelming, but also really beautiful to just stand in the middle of that and in one place to hear more languages and to see more traditional dress and to just, we are always aware that we are part of this, broader family of God as people of faith, but to actually get to stand in the middle of it. And I lost, that first morning, I was like, I'm 18 languages I can identify in, and so many more I could not. So it was really, if we think about what a heaven might look like, I think it would feel a little bit similar to that for me.
That is so beautiful. Thank you. That's really nice. So I know that a lot took place over all of those days, but like, what were the takeaways? Like, as we as people of faith, what would you have us know took place, and what are the pros, cons, or whatever you would have us know that happened?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I would just note. I think when I talk to our Earth Care congregations and our people that are involved in addressing climate change and, trying to move the needle on that, I sometimes hear frustration about, getting folks all on the same page and that kind of thing. And it was really interesting to see, like, we deal with that at a faith level, but that was also happening at this really global level. And, a lot of, so the PCOSA delegation, some folks were there the first week, and then myself and another colleague came the second week. And so as we were kind of catching up with people, the theme that we kept hearing was we knew going in that the COP had been delayed starting by a day because they couldn't even agree on what needed to go on the agenda. We saw, coming out of it, that even though this was billed as the implementation COP, that it just felt like there was a lot of stalling and dragging feet and that kind of thing. And they, more than 24 hours after it was supposed to end, they were like 5:30 in the morning local time, they were still hammering out the details of the cover decision, which is like basically here is what this COP decided. And so so in a weird way, that was actually a little bit encouraging to me, that it's not just us, tripping over our own selves, that these are really complicated, complex issues that regardless of what sector you're working in, that folks have to deal with. One of the things we kept hearing, or I kept hearing a lot, was just this whole idea of loss and damage. So loss and damage is something that I think in the US we maybe more commonly hear talked about as reparations or that kind of thing, which is financial assistance to countries who are most impacted by the effects of climate change. So it's how do these wealthier countries help these most impacted countries, a lot of them in the global South, recover from what has already happened because of climate change. And so this was the first year in like 30 years that it was even on the agenda.
Oh, wow.
And that's part of what delayed the start. But there was a whole loss and damage piece included in this cover decision for the first time in 30 years. And so that is, it's a recognition that the global world is no longer having if there are impacts discussion, but an acknowledgement that there are impacts and that we have a responsibility to do something about it. And so I think for me, what felt hopeful and what came out of this, looked a little different than, there's a poem that's like, hope isn't always necessarily the thing with feathers. Sometimes it's like the other thing. But so a little bit of that felt this way to me, but it did, the fact that it was, there is a piece that says that, these bigger polluters will have a bigger bill to pay. They will, that they have accountability and responsibility to this. The operations of how that fund will work is not something that has been put into place. And so that was, frustrating. As folks that were really looking for more ambition to come out of this COP, but that piece of the loss and damage cover decision did establish a transitional committee that is supposed to meet before March 2023. So they've got a few months to meet and really get a plan together that they can present at COP28 about how are we going to make this thing work. So,
well, that's hopeful. I think you named, my next question was going to be about hope, but you've named just, the global community coming together and this, hopefully responsibility of the major contributors of climate change, helping to care for, as we're called as people of faith to do, for those who are most impacted, most vulnerable. It's just such a pleasure to be with you and to just have this conversation. And you really did help me imagine what it was like and to know a little more. Do you have any closing comments or anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things that I would note that I heard from colleagues that was different this year, that the sessions that I got to attend, just the conversation around the importance of Indigenous wisdom. I love at the opening of this that you named, the lands of the people in which, we live, but the power of Indigenous wisdom and what that offers to us as far as coming up with, stronger solutions for climate change. That was, COP is normally split into the blue zone and the green zone, and Indigenous folks are often in the green zone, which is not where the decisions are happening. And for the first time this year, they were present in the blue zone, which is really powerful. I think the other thing that I would just name is that, as I was, I work with Earth Care congregations. And so I'm always looking for, how do I translate this stuff into practical action for congregations and for people of faith? And, I asked several different folks along the way, like, how can people at home connect with what's happening at COP? How can they have a voice here? How can they impact things? And, over and over, what I heard was the time to have your voice heard at this COP was a year ago. And so, the delegation for the US, they are operating out of what their constituents, have spoken. And so as people of faith, if we want our voice heard, and if we want to lift up, what we see as ambition for addressing climate change, we need to be speaking that to our representatives now, not in a year from now. So COP28 will be held in the United Arab Emirates. So that's another petro state.
Yes.
So we know, that's a little bit on the face, it looks a little bit bizarre, but we know that those are countries that need to be involved in the solutions and the discussion too. But we also, I think it makes it all the more important then for us to make sure that we are advocating and speaking to our representatives, even if we don't see things, issues before our own governments. We need to be telling our representatives that we are paying attention and that we care and that we want to be good global citizens.
Nice. Yes.
A little bit discouraging in some places to see that the US was holding things up, especially when I know so many great folks who care so much about this and would be really disheartened to see that. So I'm glad to be part of a faith community that really is calling on the world to more ambitious action.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Well, we are so glad that you were there representing PCUSA, but all of us people of faith. So we're really thankful for you and for your work, Jessica. And it's just been such a blessing to be with you today. And thank you so much for spending this time with us and for your faith and climate leadership. So please check out the description below and tell us what you think. Engage with us online again using the hashtag Let's Talk Climate. And be sure to subscribe and follow Blessed Tomorrow for the latest thoughtful leadership resources and episodes on climate action and advocacy. From all of us at ecoAmerica and Blessed Tomorrow, thank you for being with us. People of faith are the perfect leaders for climate solutions. We all stand on God's holy ground together, and we need everyone every day.